8:35. And welcome, everybody. If you have any questions about your home, we're here to help. I'm Richard Smith with Caliber Home Inspections, an engineer-directed company of 25 years plus, inspecting homes and protecting dreams. And this is just a short question and answer session. I expect it won't be any longer than 15 to 20 minutes. So we are here to answer any questions. If you have any questions, feel free to ask about your house. Well, in lieu of any questions today, I've got home maintenance tips that I have on my website. You can print those off. It's broken down by season. We have winter, spring, summer, fall, and then a monthly list. And the only thing in the monthly list is your air filter. And then yearly tips, and you can put that in any season you want to put it in. So if you want to do everything in the spring, all the yearly items. And then I have every 5 to 10 years you should check. So if we're going to wait for questions, we could just go through this and until we have any questions pop up. But this is something we do on a home inspection, and when I find these things, people go, "Oh, if I only knew, I would have done something about it." So it's something you should do at least once a year, and that's run your water in your sinks and just watch underneath for a minute and just see if there's anything leaking. And that's your supply lines or your drain lines. Drain lines, the newer drain lines, you can actually just tighten up a hand. So that isn't too scary. Supply lines, well, you may need to turn the water off to fix it, but be a good idea to actually turn the valves also on your hot and cold. Make sure they turn and they're not freezing up and going bad. If they do go bad and you have a leak, you want to be able to turn it off. Or if you want to work on your sink, then you want to be able to turn it off and without worrying about it continuing to drip. If you wanted to change a fixture out or something, you can turn the water off locally and not turn the rest of the house off. But you should go through and check your showers, make sure they're not dripping. That's something you probably would have known by now, but it's not a very difficult fix. It's something the homeowner can do easy enough. If you go to YouTube, you can see the little procedure on how to fix the leaks. There's just some screws you got to take off. Plumbers aren't rocket scientists. They do a service that a lot of people just don't want to do. And sometimes it gets difficult. Sometimes it's not difficult. You just don't know how to do it. It's a trick, and it's just a slight distinction of knowing how tight to turn something. And so plumbers have their place. I just think if you mess up in plumbing, it's one thing. If you mess up in electric, it's a whole different thing. So go around all your fixtures and make sure they're not leaking, especially areas that are underneath sinks and cabinets and in basements. Ooh, in crawl spaces. No one wants to get in their crawl space. And one of the biggest reasons we have a significant increase in fees for a home inspection is when we do crawl spaces. People don't go in their crawl spaces. Yes, they might be difficult to get into sometime, and sometimes they're just by industry standards, they're not accessible. So if you have a leak there, and oftentimes plumbing leaks, eventually everything will leak, it goes neglected. So what we find in crawl spaces are leaks that are neglected, and then they cause damage, and you have significant issues. So that's actually why we started this question and answer little weekly Q&A session, is because our home inspectors' hearts just break when we see little inexpensive items that, if left undetected and unaddressed, become very costly to fix. So there you have it. Hose bibs, well, it's almost about time to turn those off for the winter. Turn those off on the inside of the house if you have the valve. That may include getting into your crawl space, unfortunately. Nowadays, they don't do that. Now they'll put it underneath the sink. So we're going to talk about winterizing your house maybe in a couple weeks. Not totally winterizing it, as in draining the water from the plumbing, but making sure it's a little bit more robust for saving your water pipes from any freezing. All right, so check your leaks, plumbing leaks, and then there is sometimes, let me tell you a story about a house that I bought and built, and well, I had built my first house, and I wasn't quite using the laundry room. I was right out of school and didn't want to buy a laundry washer and dryer. So I ended up going home on the weekends anyway, and I'd bring my basket. And so I used that room for storage, and I piled up boxes everywhere. And it was just convenient to get things because it was kind of close. And it was about 4 months, 5 months, and I just noticed there's something must have died in that room. It smelled horrible. So I said, oh, there's so many boxes piled up. I pulled out all the boxes, couldn't find anything dead anyway. But I noticed it was really bad when I got to the washer hookup. At the bottom of the washer drain line, there is a trap that needs to be filled with water. I was getting sewer gases in my laundry room because there was no water in the trap. They expect you're going to use your appliances when you move into a house. So I was filling up my septic tank, and I was getting those gases in my laundry room. So all I did is pour water down in that trap, and it just stopped. So if you have basements that you don't use the shower or the sinks, and they just go unvisited for a little while, I really suggest you pour a little water in the traps, check some things, clean some things, wash the bugs down the drain. Fill the traps. When you're filling the sink traps, watch, make sure they don't leak. You know, if they're not being used, people wouldn't notice. So fill your traps on sinks and bathrooms, tubs, and everything that you don't use. So you ought to do that, well, at least yearly. You might notice it even more quickly than that, but so that might solve a little stink you have in a basement that you never use. That's it for fall. We touched about all the other things. Generators, dryer vents, check the crawl space for critters. Your sump pump, check that. Service heating and air conditioning for the furnace, because it's coming. Cold wave coming. We are here in December already. Christmas is around the corner. And then a chimney sweep, if you burn, we've already started burning. So we checked that out. So that's 10 minutes. Do we have any other questions? Did you think of anything while I was talking about the maintenance tips for fall?
Good question. So if
Yeah,
somebody had an older home, say 80 to 100 years old, and they had added on to it, and
and they had a what?
they had added on to it,
Right.
like it's a crawl space on one side and a slab on the additional what they added on to it. And they had like a musty smell between where they added on and where the crawl space ends. What would be the best solution for that?
Just a musty smell?
Yes. They tested
Whoever,
to find it.
yeah, we just have some tips and tricks. It's an old house. Old houses have their own little character smells and um just have to make sure it's not a mold developing in the crawl space. So someone needs to get in the crawl space. Some crawl spaces are going to be very, very difficult to get into when it's really old. They didn't hold to the standards that gave access to the crawl spaces. They just put the wood a couple inches from the dirt and just started building, kind of like I'm doing with my outbuilding out back. Um, so you really need to check to see if there's any water damage, any water in standing in the crawl space, or making sure it's ventilated properly and dried. You can even put a dehumidifier down there. There are some you can hang from floor joist and aim it towards that corner, and it'll dry out that corner, and that'll help a lot with the musty smell. But there's always the tea tree oil that's antibacterial, antifungal, uh, and you could just get plates back in there and uh, put that out on the uh, in the crawl space. Then that just it eats up odors, and it's a very natural way to do it without putting poisons in your house. And then ozone ozone generating machine. You can get one for less than $200, and once you get it, you can have it. It'll be yours. You can just use it whenever you want in your car. If you leave your windows open, it gets moldy in there. You can use that to kill all the bacteria. And that's what hospitals use to clean um, hospital rooms. If they'll do the whole floor at a time, I understand. So there's ways to get the odors out, and the odor is just the bacteria and um, and the molds that are floating around in the air. So water is the culprit of a lot of things. Arizona, my sister's in Arizona. She didn't have these problems. I don't see how home inspectors even can find leaks because it never rains over there. But they're looking for design. Yeah, it's interesting. I know in some areas of Texas, the soil actually it's so dry and arid in some areas that they actually have to water the soil to keep the moisture in the soil consistent enough so the earth doesn't shift.
Huh. I've never heard
And
of that.
the earth will just crack, and when it does, it heaves. So it's too dry. Yeah, it's bizarre. Different areas of the country, like we don't have to worry about ice damming or uh, boiler type heating units, or um, we have gas if people want to really put some heat out. And you'll find some uh, rural homes that have the wood burning stoves that work great. They're amazing. Um, it's amazing how much heat just a little bit of wood puts out if it's managed properly. So that's about it for our 15 minutes. Uh, stop by next time, and I think we're gonna have a guest speaker talking about our free 30-day warranty on a home after you do an inspection. So we're looking forward to that. Hopefully that goes well. And if anybody has any questions, remember we are here every Wednesday morning at 8:35 for 15 minutes or so, and can answer your questions. All right. Next time you need a home inspection, please think of us. We're the best home advocate you could choose. All right. Thanks. Have a great day.